Unveiling the Tragedy, a heartbreaking chronicle of Palestine. The world has witnessed one of the longest-standing conflicts in modern history, the Palestine-Israel conflict. This video takes you on a profound journey, uncovering the decades of suffering endured by the Palestinian people under Israeli occupation. Through history, statistics, personal stories, and reflections of faith, we reveal the hidden truths behind this tragic tale. Together, we strive for global awareness and an urgent call for justice. In 1948, the State of Israel was established, marking a significant turning point for Palestine. For Palestinians, it became known as the Nakba, or the catastrophe. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were forcibly displaced from their homeland, their homes and villages destroyed, to make way for the newly created state. The Nakba was not just a moment in history. It marked the beginning of an unending struggle. More than 700,000 Palestinians were turned into refugees, scattered across the region with no means of reclaiming what was lost. This foundational event planted the seeds for a conflict that persists decades later, deeply affecting millions of lives. Over the years, the situation has worsened through major military operations and conflicts. In 1967, the Six-Day War saw Israel seize control of additional Palestinian territories, including Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. This military occupation expanded Israeli authority over regions meant to be Palestinian land. Following this, the First and Second Intifadas, uprisings, arose in 1987 and 2000 as acts of Palestinian resistance to ongoing occupation. These moments captured international attention, exposing the oppressive conditions Palestinians faced daily. However, instead of easing the conflict, these uprisings were met with stronger retaliatory measures by the Israeli government, escalating the violence. Over time, illegal settlements continued to sprawl across the West Bank, further shrinking Palestinian territory. While international organizations condemned these actions, little meaningful change occurred on the ground. The scale and severity of the violence documented in the Palestine-Israel conflict are striking. Numerous human rights organizations have reported systematic violations of basic human dignity. This includes attacks on civilian populations, destruction of homes, and severe restrictions on resources. Gaza, often referred to as the world's largest open-air prison, faces blockades imposed by Israel, depriving Palestinians of access to essentials like water, medical aid, and sufficient electricity. These restrictions have had devastating humanitarian consequences, as international aid agencies struggle to meet the population's needs. Military operations have targeted civilian infrastructure, including homes, schools, markets, and even hospitals. Waves of airstrikes have left neighborhoods in ruins, with countless families displaced amidst the rubble. The deliberate targeting of such critical spaces has led to accusations of war crimes, creating a glaring need for accountability. In the West Bank, Palestinians face apartheid-like conditions. They are subjected to checkpoints, segregated roads, and constant surveillance, limiting their movement and freedoms. Lives have been uprooted, their communities fragmented by the encroachment of settlements and security barriers. What strikes the deepest chord in this ongoing tragedy is the plight of children. Over 40,000 children, innocent and full of potential, have reportedly lost their lives as a direct result of this brutal conflict in recent years alone. Each of these deaths represents not a statistic but a haunting loss. A child who will never laugh, dream, or live to see peace. Families are left shattered, enduring the unbearable pain of losing their young ones. Moreover, children who survive face lifelong trauma. Many grow up amidst violence, where the sounds of airstrikes and the fear of displacement are part of their everyday reality. If education is a pathway to hope, even this has been torn from them. Schools have been destroyed, and an environment of constant instability prevents many children from pursuing an education. The psychological toll of these experiences is immeasurable, leaving deep scars that persist for generations. Since the occupation began, estimates suggest that hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have lost their lives. This staggering death toll is the direct result of ongoing violence, airstrikes, and military offensives. Beyond the deaths, millions have been displaced from their homeland. Entire generations of Palestinians have grown up as refugees, facing statelessness and uncertainty. Many live in overcrowded camps with limited resources, waiting for the justice and freedom they have been promised for decades. The ongoing displacement strips Palestinians of their identity and connection to their land. Homes that have been in families for generations are demolished, leaving them with nowhere to return. The loss of land, culture, and heritage is yet another devastating aspect of this conflict. In the face of these overwhelming statistics, it is easy to lose sight of the human lives behind them. This video shines a light on the stories of Palestinians who have endured unimaginable loss. One grieving mother recounts the moment she lost her children in an airstrike that decimated her home. A child with bright dreams of becoming a doctor now struggles in a refugee camp, with no resources to pursue education. These stories are only a fraction of the voices that cry out for justice. The Palestinian people's resilience emerges as their most striking feature. Despite oppression, loss, and suffering, they continue to resist and endure. Their unwavering spirit is a testament to the power of hope and the strength of humanity in the face of tremendous adversity. The international community has long called for an end to the violence and a resolution to the conflict. Organizations such as the United Nations and Amnesty International have repeatedly condemned actions that violate international law. However, resolutions and calls for justice have often been met with inaction. Efforts to hold perpetrators accountable have remained stagnant, as geopolitical interests overshadow the plight of the Palestinians. The lack of meaningful international intervention prolongs this tragedy, leaving millions trapped in a cycle of suffering. Yet global movements advocating for the rights of Palestinians continue to grow. From boycotts to demonstrations, people worldwide are standing in solidarity with the oppressed. These efforts serve as a reminder that the call for justice reverberates far beyond the region itself. For many Palestinians, their unwavering faith provides a source of hope. The belief in divine accountability and ultimate justice keeps spirits alive even in the darkest times. This faith fuels perseverance, with the promise that those responsible for these crimes will one day face judgment. The collective prayers of oppressed communities echo the hope that peace and justice will prevail. Palestinian families hold on to this faith, believing that their sacrifices and suffering will not be in vain. Their resilience carries a powerful message, that even when abandoned by the world, hope remains eternal. We must ask ourselves, what can we do to help? Awareness is the first step. Understanding the depth of this crisis and educating others allows the voices of the oppressed to rise. Sharing their stories amplifies the call for justice, ensuring their suffering is not forgotten. Advocating for political change is equally important. Urge governments and leaders to support international laws that bring accountability to this conflict. Support humanitarian efforts that provide aid to Palestinian families in desperate need. As global citizens, we have a responsibility to stand against any form of oppression. Let us unite in humanity and call for a future where peace and freedom are not distant dreams but everyday realities for the Palestinian people. This story is not one of mere numbers. It is about human lives, torn apart by decades of cruelty and violence. Every factor of this conflict, from the killing of children to the displacement of families, calls for deep reflection, action, and an urgent plea for justice. Let us honor the memories of those lost and advocate for the living, whose cries for freedom still echo today. Let this video serve as a message of hope, resilience, and a reminder of our shared humanity. Together, we can amplify the urgent need for peace in Palestine.